All right, welcome everybody to our second video for DES 105 week 1. This is where I'm going to do the demo in InDesign. And if you haven't already and you're watching at home, please make sure that you watch part 1 of this video. I went over a lot of very important information that will definitely help you when you take your assessment for this week. So make sure that you watch that video in its entirety. All right, so as I was talking about before, you can make a pattern background in Photoshop that you can then import into InDesign. And some people like to do, things like that, which is cool. So one of the websites that I find really helpful to make those is this website. It's called, I always call it Subtle Patterns. It used to be subtlepatterns.com, but now it's tall.com subtle patterns. But either way, I gave you guys the link so that way you can use it. And you can kind of just go through, there's like so many pages, there's 40 something pages of different backgrounds. It does let you search, but unless if you really know what something is called, the search function's not that great, I'm not gonna lie. I'm going to download this one, this cork pattern. And this kind of brings me into setting things up and having good file management. So each mod, I have a folder for the mod, for mod 5, and inside of that folder, I have the mod that I'm teaching, DES 105, and I like to make a folder for each of my weeks to keep everything nice and separated. Because if I just threw everything into one folder, it would get really confusing. It would look like my downloads folder, which this is just from this month of things that I've downloaded for the other school, basically, that I work for. I work for an online high school. And it would get really confusing if I was constantly going into my downloads folder and working out of my downloads folder. So I'm going to emphatically say this. Do not work out of your downloads folder. If you haven't already, you might want to consider investing in Dropbox. They do have free options. Using a external hard drive, anything that you can to put those files somewhere safe. So if anything ever happens to your machine. I work out of Dropbox for everything. So in Dropbox, I have a folder for Independence University. In there, I have a folder for Mod 5, and then I have DES 105, and I have week 1. I have my discussion questions in a folder. I have other things that I need for the week. I have where I will put your work when you're done with it, and then where I will be working on my assignment. So I always know where things are located. So I'm going to drag over this cork background and unzip it. Slowly but surely. Come on. I completely killed my laptop today. I forgot it upstairs, not plugged in, with my external hard drive running and backing up, and I came back 2 hours later and it was dead as a doornail. I was so worried that it wasn't going to start back up this evening, but here we are, but my webcam's not working, so I did something wrong. All right, so let's take a look at that assignment right in the course. And I'm going to, before I even start my background, I'm going to set up my document in InDesign. So I am not going to design one of the 3 menu covers that you guys are designing, because I feel like if you're watching somebody design something and you know that you can't follow their design, it's really hard to unsee that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to design a menu cover. I'm just going to use a fictional restaurant, and I will have my own fictional text and my own fictional images that I'm going to use. So that way I can show you guys the tools, I can show you how I design something, how I package it, how I make my PDF, but it won't be one of the 3 options that you can choose from. But I'll have everything set up the same exact way. So that way, you know, I can't say, hey, this looks exactly like my design, because it won't. It's for a different company. All right, so I'm going to open up InDesign. And when you first open up InDesign, it's kind of boring. It looks like this. If you have any recent files, those will show up, but usually you just get this boring screen. There used to be stuff going on, but not anymore, apparently. You know, years and years ago. So we're going to create a new document, and I'm going to make sure I'm in print because we're using print, and I want to be in a letter, 8.5 by 11. Now this needs to be 2 pages. So I'm going to select 2 pages, and it says make sure that it's not in spread. So turn facing pages off. So I'm going to unclick it because it defaults to be facing pages. I want it to start on page 1. I only want 1 column. I do need to set up my margins though. My margins need to be 0.375. So what you'll notice is if you put in 0.375, oops, and then you click into the next box, because these are linked, it's going to change the margins for all of your boxes. So it'll take care of that for you. And then this does have a bleed, and I will go over that in a second, but let's just input that bleed as 0.125. And again, in all of the boxes. So just click over, and don't worry about slug, and then hit create. So I'm going to zoom in here. Oops, a little too much. There we go. I just want to be able to show you the 3 different boundaries that we have here. So this red line that extends off of our document, that's our bleed. So when something goes to the printer, or if you get a printed piece, and I actually have a printed piece here, and I'm going to try again to turn on my video for you. Close this. It's not very intuitive to do this on my iPad. I believe that you can see me. All right. So I have a printed piece here. Hopefully you can see it okay on your screen. And what this is you'll notice that the image extends to all 4 sides, and it was clearly cut, and the print goes all the way to the edge. That is a bleed. What that means is this image extended to those red lines that went off of the cut line, which is the border of our page. And when it went to a printer, they printed it larger than what the piece is going to be. So it then goes to a cutter, and he cuts it along the crop lines. And this is how you get those images that go right to the edges. That's why when you're printing something on your printer at home, even though it fills the whole screen, you'll notice that you get that white border around. It's because your printer at home can't handle doing a bleed. The next line, and I'm just going to leave my webcam up for a second. The next line is this pink line right here, which is our margin. So we want to make sure any pertinent information, such as our text, our logo, anything that we want to make sure, no matter what, does not get cut off, needs to stay within that margin. So you'll notice if I flip this over, and I'm going to try to get a little bit closer, on this side, they did not give a very big margin. So when it went to the printer, things tend to shift on the printer, and you can tell that on this side, the text got very close to getting cut off. So you want to make sure that you keep everything within your margins that you've set up, but that any of your background images, that they extend to this bleed line. So that bleed line is actually bigger than 8.5 by 11. And on that note, I'm going to just turn off my video. There we go. And I'll get back in. So the way to, hold on one second. I've got Zoom all over my screen here. I gotta close out that. There we go. So the way to make sure that you have the right size for those bleeds is you want to take your, either your rectangle tool if you are doing a color background, or if you're going to do an image background, take that rectangle frame tool. You can see that the difference between the two of them is the rectangle frame tool, which you're going to be inserting your images in. This has an X in the middle because it's supposed to signify like an empty box, and then you're going to fill it with stuff. The rectangle tool that you would use to just add color or what have you it kind of looks like it's already filled in. So that's the difference between those two. And what you can do is you can start to click and drag, because I'm going to do an image with your rectangle frame tool, and you can kind of let go. And if you do Control or Command 0, that'll put everything right in the screen. Or you can go to View, Fit to, where is it? View. Oh, there it is. Fit Page and Window. And then I'm going to drag the corners with my black arrow tool to make it the size I need it to be. So I need to go all the way down here to the bottom of my bleed, and then all the way over to here. So I need to make a background image that's 8.75 by 11.25. I need it to be at least that size. And to make a patterned background, I'm going to make it in Photoshop. Let's go open up Photoshop, which I was apparently never saved what I was working on before this. Whoops. Yes, please save that I did 2 days ago. Oh. Save and save often. Don't be like me. Working on, for the high school, some civics, high school civics PowerPoints. All right. So I want to create a new document. And again, this is going to be for print. And I need it to be 8.75. Oh, come on. Print. 8.75 by 11.25. I want it to be 300 DPI, and I want it to be CMYK. I'm going to hit create. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up that cork that I downloaded. Drag that into Photoshop. And I need to set this as a pattern. So I've opened it up in its own file, and I'm going to go to Edit, Define Pattern, and it's going to be named Cork Wallet, I guess. And I'll just hit OK. And I can close it out. And in that background image that I made, the blank image, I'm going to go up into Edit, Fill, and under Contents, I want it to be a pattern. And then under Custom Pattern, I'm just going to scroll down to that pattern I just made, which is the cork wallet, and I'll hit OK and place it. And it seamlessly, that website has it set up so it seamlessly patterns or tiles this for you. And it'll be a seamless background. Then I can just do File, Save As, and navigate over to Mod 5, DES 105, Week 1, my assignment, and I'm going to name this cork background. I'm going to save it as a TIFF file and hit save. And done. And close out of that. Perfect. Now I can go in to InDesign, and now I can place this file. So I've drawn the square for my file, for my image. I'm just going to go into Edit, whoops, File Place, sorry about that. And it's going to pull up a menu. And it's going to say, what do you want to place? So again, this is why having your files where you know where they are and you can get to them easily makes it easier. So I'm going to, again, navigate over to week 1, that cork background, and I'll hit open. And it's going to place that background right in the rectangle that I've created. And you can see now that it goes to my bleed, past my cut line, and here is, again, here's my margin. So Command or Control 0, and I'm back to full screen. And next I'm going to show you that Pexels website, because I'm going to find myself some wine glasses. See what they have. That's kind of fancy. I like that. I really like that. That's really pretty. I'm gonna use this one. So you click on the image and then you just click on free download and it will download for you. And what you're going to want to do with all of your images is you're going to want to open them up in Photoshop. Even the images that you download for the assignment, they're going to default to RGB, and because this is a print document, you need to change that to CMYK. So in Photoshop, you'll need to do image mode, change it to CMYK, and you're also going to want to make sure that it's 300 DPI. So image size, this is 72 DPI. Whoops. Hold on. Unclick resample, then change it to 300. And the width, that's good. Hit OK. And then I'm going to do a file save as, and I'm going to put that in the same folder. Get on my downloads folder. I'm going to put it in my assignment folder here. Good. Close out of that. I'm going to go back into InDesign. And I'm going to place this image. So there are a couple of different ways that you can place images in InDesign, because with Adobe programs, there's always like 10 different ways to do something. The first way was how I showed you, which was drawing that rectangle with the rectangle frame tool and then placing an image inside of it. You can also just go and do a file place or Command or Control D, and it will ask you what do you want to place, and you can select the image and it'll kind of just show you a preview, and you can either just click and it'll place it, or you can click, oops, click the wrong thing. You can click and drag and it'll show you it proportionally being placed. So a couple of different ways to do that. Another way that you can do it is go to your Finder, and you can even drag it in right from the Finder. Okay, we'll put it in whatever box is there, however. So I'm going to draw a box and place it in because I want to show you another tool that will help you to proportionally place things. So I want this to be at the bottom of my menu. And I want it to bleed the same as it did, I'm doing with the cork background. So I'm going to do a file place. I'm going to select that image. And you'll notice it placed it in there, but it's really large. And I kind of want it to fit to that box. So I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to go to Fitting. And I want to fit my content to frame. And then I want it to be proportional though. So you'll notice that that didn't do it correctly. So I need to go to Fit Content Proportionally. There we go. But it still isn't all the way to my edges. So how can I do that? I always like to show you like what you might have clicked as the incorrect options. Don't think I don't know what I'm doing. What you want to do is you want to say, all right, fill the frame proportionally. Yes, I need it to fill the frame. I want the image to be proportional. And what this does is it actually, if you click here, you can see with the white arrow, with the rest of the images, it's up here and it's down here. In InDesign, you can use the bounding, the edges of your rectangle tool, your circle tool, any of your tools, and kind of crop your images right here in InDesign. So you don't have to crop the image in Photoshop, make it smaller, and then bring it into InDesign. InDesign will do the cropping for you. Again, just a really cool tool. So I've placed my wine glasses. Now you will have a logo that you need to place, and you will also have some text that you need to place. And where did I put that text document? I moved everything out of here. Like I was like, this is all old, and I think I moved my text document. Hold on one second. Where did I put you? Oh, well, I can just type something up. I'll type something up in Word. I just want to show you that you can import your text from your Word document right over to Photoshop by copying and pasting. So I'm just going to say 1234 Main Street, Anytown, USA, 555. 555-1212, www.mindmenu.com, and hours are Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 12 p.m. to 1 a.m. All right, there we go. So here's my text. So I need to decide, all right, I need to have my logo, and then I have some information that I need to add in. I need to add in an address, a website, and some hours. And also a tagline of, I'm going to say, best wine bar in town, just because I've got wine glasses here. All right. So first things first, I'm going to place my logo. So again, I'm going to draw the bounding box, and I'm going to draw it across the entire page because I want to make sure that I have it nice and centered on my page. I'm going to do a file, place, and you'll notice that this time when I drew that rectangle box, I kept it inside my margins because I'm placing my logo, and I want to make sure my logo does not go into any area where it might accidentally get cut. And here is my logo. And I'm going to go to Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally. And oh, this logo has a blank bounding box on it. Hold on. Which I knew was going to happen. So I'm going to select it, and you can see this is the bounding box, so that's why it made it so small. It's because the Illustrator file is old and kind of weird for this file. So I am going to select this with my white arrow tool, and I'm going to hold down Shift and either Command on a Mac or Control on a PC and start to drag the edges just to manually make my logo bigger, and I'll probably have to drag it. Oh, there we go. Drag it back up. And the reason why I zoomed out so much is that bounding box is way over here and way up there. Sometimes you used to get more screen to work with in the older versions of InDesign, and now they're a little stingy with their screens. And because this is vector, I can make this larger than 100%. However, your images, such as your photos, you want to make sure that you keep those right around 100%. Otherwise, they can start to get low res. But that's why I gave you that site if you want to look for an image to use as a background image that'll be nice and big. That Pexels website is a great resource for that. All right, that should do it. There we go. All right, so here is my logo. And let's take a look at my text. So I have best wine bar in town. Chances are that's probably a tagline that needs to go near my logo. So I'm gonna copy this text and go back into InDesign. And I'm gonna draw my first text box by going to the type tool. And I'm gonna click and drag. And remember, if you accidentally let up on the text box, it's not the end of the world. Just go to the black arrow tool, the selection tool, and you can drag it over to the size you need it to be. For some reason, the last time I updated my InDesign and my Photoshop, weird things started happening. It started to default to align right, which is a really weird alignment for it to default to. I almost rather it had defaulted to align center because I almost never right align anything. So if you notice I'm constantly having to fix that, it's really only my computer apparently that this happened to, and I'm waiting for the next update and hoping beyond hope that it changes itself. But once I drew that text box, you can see how my options change. So now I have all my type options up here, and I can also open up my character panel by going to Window, type in tables, character, and I get all my other options here. I get my paragraph options as well. And I'm gonna paste in that text. And Adobe InDesign defaults to Mini and Pro as your font. Don't use Mini and Pro. It's a default font. If you don't have a lot of fonts loaded on your machine, you can actually right through InDesign add and sync fonts from Adobe Typekit, and I will let you kind of do that on your own, but it will open, just to let you know, it is going to open in your browser. And again, if you're not signed in, it will ask you to sign into your account. And any font that you choose, just make sure it's a free font, and then it will sync to your account. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes, and then it will show up in InDesign right in your character panel. And if you're looking for it and you can't find it, you can click on the little TK up at the top, and it'll show you all of your fonts that are from Typekit. And then just unclick to get the rest of your fonts back. So I'm going to use Garamond, I believe. Or maybe I'll do this in a script. So you can also click on all classes and change it to, you know, just script fonts that you have. Just serif fonts, just sans serif fonts, just slab serif fonts. So it's pretty cool that how it lets you divvy up your font list. Oops, there we go. Probably I'll try Elena. Let's see. And to change your font size, you can use the up arrows. Oops. In either the character panel or up here in the main panel. They both, you know, we'll do it at the same time. So best wine bar in town. And I want this text to be the same red that's in my logo. So I am going to use the eyedropper tool to get that red over into my swatches panel. And again, if your swatches panel isn't open, go up to Window, and where are we? Color, Swatches, and that'll open that up. And your default swatches panel really doesn't have a whole ton of swatches in it. So let me zoom in. And again, I'm hitting the space bar. So I get the hand. See how I can kind of drag things around? Way easier than trying to scroll up and scroll over. And I'm gonna get, I wanna get that red right here. So I'm gonna go to the eyedropper tool and drop right on that red. And it's gonna say image is a vector graphic. Eyedropper values are based on low resolution RGB proxy. Just hit okay, we're gonna fix that. It's going to put the color down here in your panel, or it'll put it up here too. What you need to do is you need to double click, and it's gonna open up your color picker. And you wanna say, add RGB swatch. Even though we need it to be CMYK, we're gonna fix it after. And click add RGB swatch, then you're gonna hit okay, and you're gonna go over to your swatches, and you'll notice that it's different. It looks different than the other swatches. These are CMYK, this one is RGB. So you're going to double click on the RGB swatch you just added, and you need to change the color mode to CMYK, which is actually above RGB. And you can name it with the color value, which is the CMYK breakdown, or if you uncheck that, you can actually name it something that makes sense to you. So I'm gonna call it Amelia Island Red. I'll hit okay. And then I wanna do the same thing with that gold. So again, make sure I'm on the eyedropper tool, and I'm gonna eyedrop right on that. Come on. Hit okay. Double click. I'm going to add RGB swatch. Hit okay. Double click on the swatch. Whoops, wrong one. Double click on the swatch. Change it to CMYK. And again, I'm going to rename this one Amelia Island Gold. Hit okay. So to change my text color to that red, I need to select that text. So I'm going to go back to my type tool, and again, I can click anywhere in that text box. Let me zoom out a little bit for you so you can kind of see the whole thing. And do Command or Control A to select all, A for all. And you'll notice that your swatches changed to a letter T, which means that you can now use your swatches to change the text color. If I only had the text box selected and I went down and I changed it to red, it's actually going to change the background of that text box to red, not the text inside. So I'll need to change it back to none. You can also format the text by clicking on the little T here and doing it that way. But if you want to make sure you're getting everything, make sure you have all of it selected. It's just one of those visuals so you know that everything's working. And as you can see, you know, again, I think that this should be right up here with my logo, because as far as proximity is concerned, which is one of our CRAP principles that we'll go over, you know, you want to put things that belong together in the same proximity. So you want to make them near each other so it makes sense visually. So I'm going to put that up here. Next, I'm going to grab the rest of my text. So I'm going to grab this information here. Again, I need to draw another text box to put that information in because I want it to be in its own text box. And you'll notice, again, same thing with the logo. I'm keeping my text boxes right inside the margin. And I'm going to paste that in, and it's going to default again to Mini and Pro. So I don't want this in a script because this is a lot of important information, and script fonts aren't easy to read. You know, you really want to limit your use of script fonts. I'm going to change it to, let's see. Maybe I'm on the fence between using Garamond and using Futura. Let me just select everything. Make sure I have it selected or it's not going to change anything. Let's try Garamond first. Garamond regular. Make that a little bigger. Yeah, I kind of like Garamond. So I've got some other information here. And again, you know, I want to think, all right, people are already at my restaurant, possibly when they're looking at my menu. So maybe I can leave the size of the address, but maybe I want to make the hours just a little bit bigger. And maybe I want to make my phone number and website bold, because there's a chance, you know, next time they might want to order online or they might want to call ahead for seating. So I'm going to make just those lines a little bit larger. I'm going to try to center this in here. And, you know, I'm actually going to make the phone number and the menu red. So you'll notice I only selected within this text box the phone number, menu, and changed the font color, and it only changed it for the text that I selected. And maybe I want to make the hours, I don't want the word hours to stand out as much, so I'm going to bump that font down to 20, which is the same as my address. And because my logo is in small caps, see how the A and the I are larger? I'm going to do that with my address. Let's see, where's my options? Why aren't you showing that? Oh, it's up here. So small caps is the big T and the little t. And then I'm also going to do it for my hours, but not my website, because I think that that's kind of difficult to read. And I'm going to zoom out and take a look at this. So far, you know, it looks pretty okay, but I want things to stand out a little bit. So, remember how I was telling you about the gradient that you can do to feather the image? I'm going to show you that. I'm going to feather these wine glasses down from my cork background so you can see the whole theme I was going with. So I'm going to select this image and I'm going to go over to the gradient feather tool. And let's see if I get it right the first time. I always do it wrong the first time. You need to click within the image, and we'll hold shift so I get a nice straight line and start to drag out, there we go, towards the edge. And where I stop dragging is where the feather is going to end. So I want to almost get it a little bit below where the image ends, so that way I don't have that line where you can still kind of see the line of the image. You might need to zoom in and really kind of check it out to make sure you got a good gradient going there. So I think that that works. And then, I'm going to do a rectangle box, just a regular rectangle. And I think I want to put a gold background behind this text. So I'm going to draw my box just like this. I'm actually going to kind of drag it down here. And I had that color selected, so it automatically made it that color. But I need to move it to the back. So there's kind of two ways that you can do this. I have a background already here. So what I can do is I can do things on my layers panel, which might make more sense. You know, put the background on a layer and then keep that layer in the back. So what I might want to do is create a new layer. I'm going to name this, I can name it layer 2. Layer 1 I'm going to rename to be background. And I'm going to open up this background and I'm going to drag all of these things up onto layer 2. Come on. It's not gonna let me. There we go. No. Go. Oh, all right. Apparently. There we go. Like, why aren't you doing what you're supposed to do? I didn't have it open all the way. This. There we go. So now I have that background back there, and I've also moved my rectangle behind, and I put the image in front of it, the address in front of it, best wine in town, not like it really mattered, and then the logo are all above it. So you can kind of move things around. See, if I put the rectangle in front, it moves it to the front. So kind of like Photoshop your layers. You can move things around inside of your layers. And if you want to get a better idea, oh, for some reason, Zoom keeps coming up all over my screen. For what this is going to look like when it gets to the printer, you can change your view as well. Down here at the bottom, it's on normal view at the bottom of our whole tab of tools. You can click on that and drag out and go to preview, and it gets rid of all of those bounding boxes, and it also shows you where the cut is going to be. So the bleed's out here. So this is what the cut piece would be. And once I've done that, I can kind of see that maybe I should move this down a little so it's a little bit better centered vertically in this space. And might want to move this down a little. I still think I need to make this logo bigger, which will be easier to do from the normal menu. Whoops, wrong thing. All right, so you'll notice I closed up the bounding box on my logo, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually resize this by holding down Shift and either Alt if you're on a PC or Option, and I'm going to click and drag. The Shift always makes sure that things are being resized proportionally. Drag that. Oh. Sorry, it's either Control or Command Shift. I used to use old quick keys, and I gave you the wrong one. So it's, if you're on a PC, it's Control Shift. If you are on a Mac, it's Command Shift. I apologize. Sometimes when I'm talking, it's my fingers get confused, and they do their own thing normally. All right, so I've resized that logo, but I'm not 100% sure it's centered now on my screen, which I really want all of this to be nice and centered. So because I closed up that bounding box, I can't really use my margins to center it, but I can center it to my text box that's right here because I know that this is centered. So I'm going to select this text box, again, with the black arrow tool. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to select my logo at the same time, and I'm going to go up into Window and into, where are you? Need my align tool. There we go. Objects and layout, align. And I'm going to select align horizontal centers. And that's going to move that over because it's going to align them centered with each other. And click off. And I think that this looks good. I might even lighten this up a little bit. I think I'm going to lighten this up. There's two ways that I can lighten it up. I can lighten up the tint of it right here by changing this or just inputting a value, either one. And that'll just change the color on its own. But what I can also do is change the opacity. And if I do that, that cork background will start to show through. So I think I'm going to change the opacity. down to maybe 60%. And again, now that cork background is starting to show through a little bit. And I'm going to save my file. Remember to save and save often when you are working. So I want to go back into the assignment and make sure I have the correct naming convention, which is DES 105 _ assignment 1, your first and last name. Just copy, leave off the .zip. And you'll go to File, Save As, and again, navigate to Mod 5, DES 105, Week 1, my assignment. I'm just going to put it in here for now. And you can do just your first initial, but make sure you do at least your first initial with your last name, because some students do have the same last name. And hit save. All right. So next what we need to do is we need to package this file to upload it for our assignment. And we also need to make a press-ready PDF. So I want to show you how to set up your PDFs first. And if you save your settings, this will help you from now until eternity. Basically, anytime that you are working with a document that has a bleed, you will be able to use this preset that you've made, and it will just make your life so much easier. So go to File, Adobe PDF Presets, and go to High Quality Print. And it's going to ask you immediately, where do you want to save it? So just put that PDF into the same file or the same folder where you saved your assignment and hit Save. Now, under marks and bleeds, you need to select that and go to all printer marks, use document bleed settings, and then save preset. And you can name it whatever you want. I would name it something like marks and bleeds. I've done this multiple times, so I have marks and bleeds, all printer marks, all printer, crop marks. You can see how I've done this a million times. But you would hit OK. I'm going to hit cancel. And then you would hit export. Now, what that is going to do is that is going to make a PDF that shows where those crop and bleed marks are located. So the printer knows where to cut it, which is right here. This is the document edge. This is the bleed right in here. So when it goes to the printer, they're going to line up the blade right here, and they'll go snip and cut it. And then they'll line up the blade on this side, and they'll go snip and cut it on this side, all four sides with big cutters. But as you can see, things kind of shift a little bit when it's on a when it's on a cutter. So that's why we want to make sure that we keep all of our pertinent information within that margin that we set up, because if it's within the margin and it accidentally gets cut, a printer is going to need to reprint that for us on their dime. If it's outside of the margin and it gets cut, it's going to be reprinted on your dime as the designer for messing that up. So keep that in mind. Now, for this week, you need to have 2 different menu covers. So I only did one, but your second menu cover would be on page 2 of your PDF. And once you have done that and you've saved that preset, what you can do next is package your file for output. This is actually really easy to do. You're going to do File, Package. And this happened halfway through last mod. All of a sudden, this screen became ginormous. Yours probably won't be this big. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you a summary. Do you have any fonts missing? Do you have any images that are missing? Do any of your images use RGB? If they do, it's going to throw up an error. So that's why I was telling you to make sure that you change those images to CMYK. I'm not going to be checking for that, but it's good practice to make sure that you are doing that. You can double check that everything looks good. If nothing's showing, that means that there's no errors. Once you've done that, hit the package button. It's going to say instructions, hit continue. And it's going to ask you where you want to save this. So again, you need to navigate over to that Mod 5 folder that you created, DES 105, week 1. Find your assignment folder, my assignment, and I'm going to throw it right in there. And it's going to name it DES 105, assignment 1, S. McNamara folder, because it's going to name my folder based off of the naming convention for my file. Yes, you can. You can use different colors than what you have downloaded, but use the same info. Yes, definitely. All right, and then where it says include a PDF, you want to select your PDF preset and that preset that you have that you just saved. So my one that has all the printer marks is this one, and then make sure that copy fonts, copy linked graphics, update graphic links. You don't need to have this checked. Include fonts and links, include IDML, and then include PDF. With the all printer marks, hit the package button. It's going to say restrictions warning. Just hit OK. And then you're going to navigate over and find that file. I'm going to close this out. You'll find that file and it will be named DES 105, assignment 1, S. McNamara folder. And you want to make sure that you aren't zipping just the InDesign file or you aren't zipping just the PDF file. Make sure you grab the folder that is named folder, and you need to right click and do compress. If you do not have a 2-button mouse, you will need to hit either Command or Command on a Mac and click, which will zip it, and then on a PC, I believe you hit Control and click to zip it. So compress that. That's going to make your zip file for you. And before you upload it, you're going to want to double check, open up the folder, make sure that you see an IDML file. That is an older version InDesign file. So say I was running an older version of InDesign than you were running. If I can't open up your InDesign file because it is the newer version, I can always open up your IDML file. You should have a PDF in there, the InDesign file, the fonts, if there were fonts. If you only used Adobe Typekit fonts, it's not going to package them, because when I open up your file, it's going to ask me to just sync them from Typekit right on my machine. And then any of your images that you used will be in the links. Double check your PDF that everything looks right. So if you do this and you see a blank page 2, you know that you didn't do page 2 or something's missing, and you're going to want to go back and fix that. Then once everything looks good, navigate over to your assignment. And here's where you'll download your assets. Click here to download Maxwell's, click here to download Starlight Bistro, click here to download the Walk and Roll. And they will have the logo, the copy for the front page, the menu copy, which we're not doing this week, we're doing that next week, and then 3 photos. And again, you don't need to use the 3 photos on the menu cover. You might choose to use your photos within the menu design itself. Double check that you have everything on the rubric, and then you'll go up, click Submit Assignment, and here's 2 things that you can do. Again, navigate and find it. Week 1, the zip file. You can choose to add another file and add that PDF file. Oh, I'll fix this to allow PDF files. And what that will do is I can leave you comments on the PDF that you've uploaded, as well as the comments that I type in. So sometimes it's good to kind of have that visual so you can refer back to the PDF. I will fix this so you would be able to upload a PDF file as well. And then you'll click submit assignment and then move on and work on your assessment, which would be your quiz. All right, I know we went over a ton of stuff in InDesign today. That's why I was telling you that those readings and videos, that section of week 1 is really going to get into the nitty-gritty of all of those tools that you saw me using. There's just no way in 2 hours to do a full demo of all of the tools and do a demo of your assignment. So that's why the way our courses are set up is they have picked pre-recorded videos for you. All right, does anybody have any questions before we end for tonight? All right, well, I want to thank you all for coming. And again, if you make sure that you see when your multi-session is, and please feel free to pop in if you have some extra questions or you need me to go over something with you. Yes, the first week is always a brain overload, especially getting into a new program. It's not just you. So don't worry. That's why, again, I'm really, for week 1, I'm going to make comments on your design to help you in week 2, but I'm really looking to make sure that you're using the tools correctly in InDesign. I think that that'll really help. All right, well, thank you guys for being able to make it tonight, and I will see you all either at the multi-session or next week. Have a great night.